with you the purpose of the Civics Bee. It's the first time we've had it here in New Mexico, and we're hoping that it's going to grow, and we hope next year we'll have even more students that will participate in it. But the first is just a quote on what their purpose is. It says, "We believe that informed and active citizens make for a strong country, a strong economy, and a strong workforce, and that our continued prosperity depends on the strength of all three of those." $500 for second and $250 for third place. And the age students who were competing in this Civics Bee are middle school age students. So we were really, it was wonderful. We had, there were students from all over the state, and out of the two of the three winners, two of them came from the Rio Rancho Public School District. And so we were really proud of that. I was at that event. I was really thrilled to be there and had been asked to present trophies. And so I got an opportunity to see it firsthand, and it was great. We also had a lot of our legislators who attended, and we had representatives, the executive directors from both the LFC and LESC were there. In fact, one of the judges was from LFC. And so there was a nice showing of support from from some of our legislative representatives. And it was, as I said, sponsored by the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce. It's actually sponsored by the National Chamber of Commerce, and the goal is to grow it significantly in the next few years. So Jerry Reeder was going to present some additional information. However, he is not able to be with us this evening. So I want to share with you Auburn Ikers from the Rio Rancho Cyber Academy took first place, and Esha Shiva Shankar from Mountain View Middle School took third place. And so we're absolutely thrilled for representing not only your schools, but the district and the community. In a few minutes, we're going to have a more formal recognition, and I'm going to ask Julie Arnold, principal of the Cyber Academy, to come and speak a little bit regarding Auburn and the recognition that she got. All right. Before we go on to that, I go back, I'm sorry, just 1 second. The thing that I thought was most interesting is what you had to do to participate. And you had to write an essay. And those who wrote an essay, then they selected the pool from that group. And Jerry Shala for our chamber, was very involved in this process. And then you, in the competition itself, they had them all up in the front of the people who were there, and there was a big electronic board behind, and you could see how they did as the questions were asked, and they were asked about a lot of different things, including the Constitution, court decisions, legislation over the years, very in depth, and the audience was also asked to participate on their phones. And we saw how the adults were doing, and we saw how the students were doing. And I will have to tell you, the students were doing better than many of the adults. And so I thought that was so good for the future of our country. And those, I will tell you, they were not easy questions. And they did a really good job. But you could watch the scores as they came in, and so kind of enjoyed the technology piece of it. And then after they went through that part, they were given a situation that might be faced, that community might face, and they had to just address it. They didn't have time to really prepare, but they had to gather their thoughts and they had to present it. And the students did, some did really good job. Ours did really good job, I thought, in that area. Some kind of struggled with that, having to do it just off the cuff. But it was a wonderful opportunity, and I hope we as a community will support these students and really push to expand it next year for others. And so in a minute, we're going to to recognize our students who are here this evening. But it was a great experience. I was so glad that I was asked to be there and to participate in it. Okay. You have a couple of other items this evening. We have a proposed RFP, and it's for facilities, and you will be asked to consider approval for emergency mitigation services. And this will be presented by Michael Madrid, Director of Purchasing and Chief Procurement Officer. And if you have additional questions about the services and what they do, our Executive Director for Facilities, Patrick Martinez, could provide some additional information if the board needs that. And then we have some proposed policy changes. And as you know, all policy changes are presented as a first reading, so no action can be taken by the board in a first reading. Policy changes are provided so that the board has time, a couple of weeks, to review them and think about them and make any comments or suggestions. And then we'll have a second reading at the next board meeting. And only after you have a second reading can the board actually vote to approve or disapprove a policy change. And so the proposed changes will be presented by David Vigil because most of them relate to finances, and that relates to the inventory policies, our payment procedures and audits, and financial monitoring. So we will have those presented, but again, no action can be taken by the board this evening on those. And then if you have any questions or comments, I'd be glad to try to answer those.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll now go to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Madam President, this is Board Member Tyler. I'd like to make a motion to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, we'll now move into our public comment portion of our meeting. We receive public comments in two different ways. So we have a public comment form on our RRPS board page. We received 10 public comments through that. And so I will go through and summarize those ones. Once I'm finished summarizing those comments that we received, we will have our in-person public comment that will be here in the boardroom tonight. So let me just start with the summary. So we received, as I said, we received 10 public comment through our board page. The first was from Catherine Banker. She was thankful for Rio Rancho Public Schools removing political signs. Nanette Jock, in regards to Board Policy 404, and is against how it's being interpreted. Emily Wafer does not understand why we are taking down LGBTQ signs. Maria Tatum, which is also in regards to the LGBTQ signage. Elena Lee, concerns about the traffic flow patterns and safety at Cleveland High School. The traffic flow, she believes, is causing our tardies. Corey Messenger, against the recent interpretations to Board Policy 404. Hannah Miller, against the removal of LGBTQ signs. Leo Ledbetter, disagree with the removal of LGBTQ signs. And Fallon Brown, against the removal of LGBTQ signs. Our last is from Richard Banker, thankful for Rio Rancho Public Schools removing political signs. So that's just a summary of what we received on our form page. So now as we go into our in-person comments, we have 5 in-person public comments tonight. And so please refer in the agenda for the board's meeting. There are some different things of how to conduct our public comments. Each individual will have 3 minutes to give their public comment. JC will time as each individual starts their public comment, which I always like to say when we have our in-person public comment is it sometimes can feel awkward because we can't say anything back. So sometimes you'll see those things up on YouTube and the board looks ridiculous, but truly we can't say anything back unless it's on our agenda. So we will not be able to address the things that are being spoken of tonight. But you will have those 3 minutes to speak. And so we'll start with Andrew Ryan, if you'd like to come to the podium.
I'd like to thank the board I'd like to thank the board for its time. My name is Andrew Ryan, and I'm an ELD coordinator at Eagle Ridge Middle School, and this is my 3rd year in the district. And having come from Texas, I am incredibly grateful for the open and affirming community that I found here. However, New Mexico did not gain its reputation as a refuge state and a safe haven amongst our neighbors by being apologetic or overly cautious regarding its support. And knowing this, neither should we as a district. This is why I call for the board to strike Board Policy 404 that no materials shall be introduced into the classroom to promote a biased viewpoint on religious, racial, sexual, or political issue. We live in a time where we cannot control what or who is deemed political or biased, causing us as educators to have to walk on eggshells regarding sensitive topics, even as they appear in the curriculum and state standards. As stated by the New Mexico Public Education Department, diverging from a singular Eurocentric cultural script, ensuring equitable inclusion of accurate historical stories reflecting Indigenous, Hispano-Latino, Chicano, Mestizo, African-American, and other cultural perspectives, end quote, is one of the stated goals of the New Mexico state standards. This policy makes this difficult, if not completely impossible. It also prevents us from adequately supporting some of our most vulnerable students by asking us to take away visible safe space signs. We can understand that differentiation is not just integral, but required for good education when it comes to different styles of learning, our IEP students, our ELL students. So we should easily understand how this is yet another form of differentiation of support for the students who need that visible support to be more successful, which is why visible safe space signs stripped of all their identifying factors are not enough, and traditional visible safe space signs are most effective. I've been told by others, homophobic others, that they accept me as a queer person simply because I'm not flamboyant, because I tone it down. And that, in effect, is what this is asking me and every other teacher to do, to tone it down to keep a couple opinionated bullies happy. We as teachers are told repeatedly that you cannot approach 100 different students from 100 different backgrounds in the same exact manner. It's not equitable nor effective. Instead, you need to accept, respect, and celebrate our differences to truly meet them where they're at. And this is no different. There is a difference between equal and equitable support, and this is moving in the right direction. Now, realistically, I understand that these policies are meant to help avoid controversy, and I understand that as someone whose very existence is indeed controversial. But I hope I ease the board's mind in this by saying that at a recent Rio Rancho Library board meeting, when these same questions were raised, the entire community came out in support of protecting visible diversity. So I ask that you please move forward with this, knowing that the community is behind this kind of change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Our next public comment will be Kiyomi Wilkes.
Good evening. My name is Kiyomi, and I'm currently a youth services librarian. And prior to that, I taught English at the high school level for 5 years. I'm here tonight to appeal to the members of the board to strike Policy 404. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. It is a teacher's job to empower students to think for themselves and to form their own opinions and viewpoints based on a rich variety of information and on well-honed critical thinking skills. Students do not gain these skills in an environment that treats their identities as political statements. They do not gain these skills when knowledge and information are treated as dangerous. They do not gain these skills when their very identities are treated as incendiaries that could ignite outrage. We enrich and empower our children by exposing them to diverse viewpoints, not by raising them in an environment where acceptance and information are scarce. According to a 2020 study, quote, LGBTQ youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers, end quote. However, the Trevor Project reports that, quote, having at least one accepting adult can reduce the risk of a suicide attempt among LGBTQ young people by 40%, and that, quote, LGBTQ youth who found their school and home to be LGBTQ affirming reported lower rates of attempting suicide. When schools remove signs previously containing LGBT+ and people of color affirming imagery, they are inadvertently sending their students a dire message. They are saying, you are not a person, you are a problem. Members of the LGBT community and people of color will face these messages all of their lives, but they should never have to face it in their schools. Our schools should never send students the message that who they are is fundamentally dangerous and unsafe. When teachers place safe space signs that affirm the importance of LGBT+ students and students of color, they offer students a unique gift, one some of them may never have experienced before. They offer students the gift of entering a classroom knowing that they are valued as full people, not as mere statistics, behaviors, cultures, or sexualities. I am a genderqueer, pansexual Japanese Jew. I've always been open about who I am as a teacher and as a librarian. I've always had a safe space sign on my classroom door. That sign has never stopped any of my students, be they queer or straight, POC or white, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, agnostic, Jewish, atheist, or otherwise, from telling me about themselves and about their struggles and about what they believe, even if it contradicts things that they may think I believe. They do so because they know that they are loved. The thing about being a teacher is that we understand that love is not a limited resource. We know that we do not deplete our store of love by giving it away. We do not make some students unsafe or unloved when we are open about our acceptance of those who are traditionally marginalized. And so I ask the board to carefully consider what they are teaching our students by upholding Board Policy 404. Thank you.
Next is Corey Messenger.
Good to see you. Name is Corey Messenger, teacher at Eagle Ridge Middle School. Is my 13th year in this awesome district. Came to kind of talk to the board about the recent interpretation of Policy 404. And I know you already read what I wrote, and I'm kind of wordy when I write, so hopefully I can par that down in speaking. But the recent interpretation of the LGBTQ plus signs deems them as political or biased, using the policy's language. And we are in a time, as Andrew said, that anything can be called political. And it's a message of love and acceptance. And personally, I don't find those political. I don't know anybody that does find a message of love and acceptance political. The words of MLK Jr. were love and acceptance. The story of Anne Frank, love and acceptance. We don't ban those in our school. And if somebody suggested that we did because they are political, we would hopefully laugh in their faces and draw that line there. Right? We've got to draw that line somewhere as a district. And I really don't feel like this is where we need to draw the line. This is not the right place to draw that line. The second point that I wanted to make is our safe schools trainings that teachers are required to watch every year. One of those is specifically about LGBTQ and supporting them. And the training itself recommends hanging these signs. So we're definitely getting mixed messages here as well. And then third and finally, we have never, at least in my experience in this district, limited what teachers can hang in their classrooms as far as supporting students. And that's really what this is all about, is supporting the kids. All right. I've got friends that have posters of the Rio Rancho Rams soccer team hanging in their classroom. Nobody says, well, you're supporting the soccer team, but you're not supporting all the kids. You need to have something up in your classroom that's more generic and says that you support them all. Just because we support a subset of students does not mean that we don't support them all. I purposely wore this shirt tonight. My son was on the Rams bowling team for 4 years. So I proudly supported them. Not once did I ever have somebody come to me and say, that's too political, Mr. Messenger. You're supporting the bowling kids, but not the others. So I would really ask that the board look at this recent interpretation of this policy and re-examine it and consider where we are drawing that line as far as what is political. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Landon Red Hair.
All right, good evening, Rio Rancho Board. It's good to be with you. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, too. I want to recognize that as well and wish you a happy day for that. And I just want to say I'm at Eagle Ridge as well, same as Mr. Corey. It's only my second year in the district. I came from APS, and I'm very happy to be here. I'll say that with Mr. Messenger. I've really enjoyed working for this district, and that's why I was as confused as everyone when we saw the recent interpretation of the policy. I teach social studies at the middle school level, so I know the importance of remaining neutral and teaching objective facts and truth. I don't teach my opinion. I had a teacher in high school who taught their political opinion, and it really soured on me because I think there's a power balance there. So we shouldn't be telling the kids what to think or how to think, but we should let them decide for themselves. And so as I read the policy, I don't see anywhere that it says it should ban pride flags. You know, it says banning biased or political flags of that nature, which I don't think personally the pride flag falls under. However, I can see where that interpretation would come from. There's a very loud minority that's been going around, spreading messages of hate and fear, and I would hate for us to fall victim to that here in Rio Rancho. because I know the community that I've just bought a house here. I've really liked Rio Rancho, and I don't see us as that way, and I don't see us giving into bullies here. And I think we all should respect and love one another. And so that's why I just ask that you clarify that language, maybe strike it down, or just the part about teaching about controversial or sensitive issues. Maybe you just clarify or fix the language there to where pride flags would not be banned. And even if you were concerned about the size of the flag, I can understand that. If you wanted to specify what flag sizes would be okay, what flags would not be okay, I would be happy with that. And so I just ask that you put that on the agenda and that we can work towards resolution on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last public comment will be Christian Dern.
And good evening. Thank you again for allowing us to address you. My name is Christian Dern. I have worked in the district for 6 years now, and I was actually a K through 12. I went through Rio Rancho Public Schools all the way from K through 12. And basically what I would like to say in regards to Board Policy 404 is love and acceptance is not political. And I would really highly recommend that the board take a look at Board Policy 404 and re-examine it for the language that is used. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's all the public comment that we have for tonight. And I just want to say again, we're always grateful to receive these. And so it is really important that the public does come in and feel that they can address the board. And so thank you again for coming in. And thanks to all those who did put in public comment through our form as well. We always welcome those. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Okay, we'll now go into our commendations. So I'm going to kind of turn this over, I think, to Dr. Cleveland, and this will be our presentation of the winners for the National Civic Bee Competition. And so we have Auburn Ikers and also Isha Shivashankar.
Are we close?
Kind of. She's going to have to. Do you want to invite? Can we invite our students to just come on up? Is that okay if we invite? Come on to our students.
We want to recognize you.
You're good right there for the moment. That's perfect.
And Julie, I'm going to ask you to say something about your student. And then I would like, if either of you would like to say a few words, one of the things I would love for you to share, if you remember, I'm sure you do, the topic you were asked to address at the competition. If you didn't, that's fine. Or if you want to share anything about your experience there, or you thought it was a good experience, and why maybe other students might want to go through that process. But I just want to tell you how incredibly proud we were of both of you to take 2 of the 3 spots in the competition, and you all did a wonderful job, and I was so glad to be able to be there and see it. So I'll turn it over to Principal Julie Arnold.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. Thank you for inviting me up to speak for a minute about Miss Auburn. She has been a very exciting accident to have at Rio Rancho Cyber Academy. She has not been my student the whole time. She came to us on August 3rd, her first day of school, and she entered 8th grade at Cyber Academy. She came to us from Lincoln. So all of her wondrous things with the Civic Bee were done prior to her coming to Cyber Academy. However, I have to say that I have really enjoyed her. I see her at lunch. She interacts with all the kids, not just one group of kids. She spends her time focusing on herself. And one of my favorite things about Auburn is the fact that she told Gary Heron that one of her favorite pastimes is reading the Constitution for fun. And she reads the Constitution for fun, and her friends just can't understand what she's doing. But I have to say, she's an amazing student, and she's brought with her a lot of secrecy. She didn't tell anybody at the school that she won this. I learned from Wyndham, and so it was a very exciting treasure that we have found that has come to Cyber Academy to join us there, and her knowledge of civics has just outshone everybody in the building. And Dr. Cleveland, I would have been one of those adults not getting it right, as Auburn was at the front getting all of the answers correct. So congratulations, Auburn. I'm very proud of you, and I'm very excited to have you as a student at Cyber.
Thank you.
Or would you like to start, and then we'll ask if she would like to just say a few words. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But it would be nice for other students to know, did you find it worthwhile? And would you recommend they go through it? And if you remember the question you asked, I thought it was you were asked. I thought it was a very interesting question on how you would handle how you would use your knowledge of civics to try to address that problem in a community. So, anything you want to share, feel free to do that, and you can do it at the podium so everybody can hear you, or you can stand right where you are.
It gave students a chance to speak their minds. It also gives students it feels like therapy, to be 100% honest. If you've been through something, it's almost like a therapeutic thing, where if you talk about what you need to talk about, something that's happened to you or something like that, you get to talk about it and express how you feel about it with the political aspect of it too. And so that was really awesome just for me personally. And I think kids who have a very strong mind about what they're thinking about or what they're dealing with, that would be a really good thing to go to.
Thank you. Sure, you have anything you want to add?
Specifically, it was more of like an interaction because if a lot of people weren't, as often said, weren't like comfortable.
That wasn't you. Sorry.
Like talking about something like the talk that she did, it really expressed like her feelings, her emotions about what she went through and how she could how to help it and what to go through. What you expect.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And you have to tell me how to say your name. Oh, okay. That's great. Thank you guys so much for coming into the room today. We really appreciate you. Thank you. And they were very brave to share in front of a whole room of people they do not know. So we are very grateful. It's like the best part of the night is when we are able to do commendations for our students. And so we're grateful. We're very grateful that they were able to come in. Okay, we'll now go to approve our consent agenda.
This is Noreen Scott. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott, a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move into the business portion of our meeting. We will first consider the approval of revised meeting minutes for September 5th, 2023. Lauren Hatch, our Chief Legal Counsel, will present.
Good evening. Good evening, Matt. Can you hear me? Try it again. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. Is that good? Okay, there. Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. I am Lauren Hatch, the Chief Counsel for Rio Rancho Public Schools. I'm here to address the first item of business. You may recall on September 5th, the board approved a land transaction exchanging some properties with the city of Rio Rancho. After that, we have to submit it to the State Board of Finance for their approval in order to move forward with the transaction. Well, they get their staff together and review our submission. And then they always come back and have a couple of things that some more boxes they want us to check. In looking at our minutes, it didn't explicitly say in the minutes, although it was discussed in the meeting, that the State Board of Finance has to approve it. And so they asked us if we could update our minutes to include that. You'll see in the draft that we provided in red, it basically says the State Board of Finance has to approve it. That's the change that we're asking you to approve today.
I move that we make the change to read this transaction is subject to the State Board of Finance approval.
It's Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott, a second by Jeff Morgan, and JC will take a roll call vote for us on this.
Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Tyler?
Yes.
Board President Galbraith?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, next is to consider the approval of RFP number 2024-005 FAC Emergency Mitigation Services. Michael Madrid, our Director of Purchasing and Chief Procurement Officer, will present.
Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland. The request this afternoon is to solicit a multiple award to be issued based on the procurement that was solicited. The award recommendation is for Carr Construction doing business as ServPro and Belfour of Albuquerque. The solicitation was issued on behalf of the Facilities Department, and approval of the recommended vendors will give us the opportunity to establish price agreements that can be used for the next 4 years for emergency mitigation services. Response to the procurement was a total of 5 proposals. All responses were out of Albuquerque. We verified the responsiveness factor from all the proposals. All of them met the requirements. All the proposals were evaluated by the evaluation committee. They were ranked and scored. Our recommendation, once again, is for a multiple award to the 2 highest ranked offers, Carr Construction doing business as ServPro and Belfour, Albuquerque. I also want to stress that we do have a comfort level with the 2 companies because both companies have done business with the district in the past. And with that, I'll stand for questions, or if any other additional information is required from Mr. Martinez, he's available as well.
Okay. Is there any questions from the board, Jeff? Any
No questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Madam President, this is Board Member Tyler. I would like to make a motion that we approve the Evaluation Committee's recommendation to issue a multiple award to Carr Construction DBA ServPro and Belfour Albuquerque for RFP number 2024-005-FAC Emergency Mitigation Services on Demand.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay. We've got a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. Dr. Cleveland, did you have anything on this before we go to vote?
No, it's just these are really valuable services in emergencies, and so glad we had good response, and we thought of very good proposals on them. So that was all I would say.
Okay. Thank you. JC, can you take a roll call vote for us on this?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler. Yes. President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next is going to be, and we can just go through all of these. So it'll be our first reading for changes to policy 610 inventories, policy 611 payment procedures, and policy 612 audits and financial monitoring. David Vigil, our Executive Director of Finance, will present.
Good evening, Board President Galbraith, members of the school board, Dr. Cleveland. These are very minor changes to policies 610, 611, 612. Basically, on policy 610, it just kind of defines further what our district-owned assets and dispositions are. Policy 611 just makes some minor changes to the language regarding payment procedures. It just authorizes the board authorizes my department to go ahead and pay our bills. And on policy 612, this just says that the board authorizes the district to engage with an audit firm and to conduct an audit annually and to report that out to the public when it is deemed ready for publishing. So that's basically it. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to add anything?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board on the changes?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's it. As a first reading, we will not vote. Thank you. So we'll see these on our next meeting come up to vote. So it's a very short meeting tonight, but they told me I'm not ever allowed to say that because something happens. I know. But for advanced planning, so coming up, we have on the 11th, we have a region meeting that will be in the APS. And thank you, JC, for writing where that's going to be. We were just talking about that. So that'll be at 5:30 on Wednesday, if you're going to that. Then fall break will be on October 12th. The 16th is a professional development day, so there'll be no classes. And then on the 23rd will be audit committee meeting at 4, a regular meeting at 5:30. And then please look at your agenda for any other dates that are upcoming. Are there any questions or anything that needs to be added for anyone for advanced planning, or anything questions on advanced planning? Okay.
I would just add one thing. We didn't have the information prior tonight, so we'll be bringing it either the next board meeting or the one after that. But our comprehensive high schools, we heard from Dr. Schmidt, did really well at the drama competition and took both first and second place in Las Cruces. And so we're really proud. We'll be recognizing them at the next meeting. So congratulations to both drama departments. It's hard when both high schools are 1 and 2, and they swap out in terms of many of these competitions. But it's good to see both of them do so well. And so congratulations to them. But we'll do a formal
That would be great.
presentation at the next meeting.
I know
Hopefully.
many of those kids, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's a
wonderful
great
to
program,
hear that.
too.
Doesn't that just show that we have a really good district, that it's
Yeah,
our 2 high schools that make it up there? So, okay, well, then our meeting tonight is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Oh, I still have to sign all these. I will sign. You got your sign.